Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to host this webinar today to talk about the Department of Energy's Home Improvement Program and how it helps to set contractors apart. We have an esteemed group of panelists with us today, and I'm going to start by introducing Mr. Bill Diederich, who is our VP of Dealer Success at Aeroseal. Bill, take it away.
Thank you, Tracy. Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Diederich, and I am the VP responsible for our residential business here at Aeroseal. And I have the pleasure of working closely with Tracy Martin, who runs our dealer development program, and Trace Guyton, who is our technical services manager in charge of our tech support and technical training functions. I am joined today by Jared Scott, who is our national director responsible for equipment sales here at Aeroseal. And he is going to stick around with us on our panel today as we hear from our presenter. And we talk about the Department of Energy and the Home Improvement Expert Program, and specifically the fact sheet specific to duct sealing and insulation. Sam Rashkin is our guest presenter today. Sam comes to us from the Department of Energy, where he's a principal architect and is responsible for their policy related to home energy programs. And I'm going to let Sam provide an introduction, tell you a little bit more about himself. Sam, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Bill. So yeah, I'm the Chief Architect with the Building Technologies Office at the Department of Energy. And today we're going to talk about a very powerful but simple resource for you to be much more competitive with Aeroseal in the marketplace. So when Tracy loads up the slides, I'll run with it, but just so you know some background about me. I was first with EPA. We led Energy Star Certified Home Program from its beginning. And now, as you may know, there are over 2 million certified homes. Now we're doing the same with Zero Energy Ready Home and moving into existing homes with Home Improvement Expert. So thank you, Tracy. To move the slides, what do I need to do?
I have just given you control. You can drive right now. And Sam, also, just for everyone's knowledge, we do have a copy of the home improvement fact sheet in the handout section of the menu. So when you get there, Sam, you can let everybody know that they've got a PDF copy as well.
Hey, thank you so much, Tracy.
Sure.
Okay, so I always lead with a why based on being a big fan of that strategy for marketing. And so there are 3 whys for Home Improvement Expert. One is for homeowners. It makes it easy for them to get what they pay for. And specifically, if they buy a home improvement that's energy related, to optimize the savings and the performance both. And that's a big deal because it's really hard in the marketplace to be sure you're getting a quality contractor. And the second thing is to make quality conscious contractors more competitive. And we do that by leveraging the DOE voice of authority and our world-class expert knowledge that is embedded in our resources to help the contractors be more competitive. And specifically, with a product like Aeroseal, where you're inherently going to be air sealing ducts at the highest level, you really want to hold the rest of the industry accountable to the quality that you're delivering. So you will be much more competitive with this kind of resource. And then lastly, for manufacturers, you know, we're in a customer experience imperative right now. There's hardly anything you can purchase or any service you can acquire in the marketplace that doesn't also connect to a 5-star rating system. And, you know, we think about our own experiences. Will we go to a restaurant, if we ever get back to going to restaurants, and pay for an $80 meal if it's not a 4 or 5-star restaurant? And you can see what kind of amazing filter 5-star reviews are for almost any business. And the fact that the manufacturer's product is installed as intended and is held accountable to best practices means they will more consistently deliver a superior customer experience, and it's their name on the product. So everyone really benefits, and this is why the program does what it does. So the essential market opportunity that we see is to capture the low-hanging fruit. There are over 14 million self-initiated energy-related home improvements every year. This is the latest Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard University's data. Year before was 15 million. It will fluctuate right about 14 or 15 million. If we can get to 7% of those households, that's 1 million households a year that we're impacting, getting what they're paying for. And you can see basically that in your world, in HVAC, you're looking at roughly almost 4 million projects, and the value of the work that goes on in your industry, HVAC, is over $22 billion. So this is a big market that we're trying to impact. And Houston, we have a problem. And the problem's all around quality installation. And research is over and over again documenting the challenges with the current HVAC infrastructure to deliver, again, the kind of quality and performance that we expect and to get what we pay for. And here are just some statistics from some of the latest studies at the Department of Energy. 70 to 90% of all HVAC installations have at least one performance compromising fault. 90 to 100% have duct leakage. And I do want to highlight this one. This is your world. And you know almost virtually every system that goes in has significant duct leakage. So this is where you are, your value is incredibly high. 50% of systems have airflow problems, 30 to 80% are undercharged, 4 to 50% are overcharged with refrigerant. It is really challenging. And the second part of the problem is this is the kind of accountability that a typical homeowner gets. I actually took a proposal I got for replacing an HVAC system, and I just had to photograph it when I got it. This is what you get. Basically, this is a scope of work that says a 3.5-ton air conditioner unmatched to a 4-ton evaporator and a Nest thermostat. And that's that. On this basis, I'm supposed to commit to $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000, and there's zero accountability. So huge challenge. So to the rescue, here comes Home Improvement Expert. It's really a solution-based resource, and the most critical word I assign to it is actionable. What it is a lot of times we give consumers guidance or information, but what do you do with it? This is very specifically telling the consumer what to do to get what they pay for. And what you need to understand, and I'll explain how that works in a second, but first understand that what we're doing is we're taking all this amazing assets that we have, this incredible knowledge from DOE, Building America researchers, national laboratories, industry leaders, and leveraging it so it can create action. And what we're effectively doing is giving solutions to 21 common upgrades. And they're in 4 buckets: the enclosure upgrades, sealing and insulating attics, walls, foundations, converting vented attics to unvented or vented crawl spaces to unvented, windows, heating and cooling systems, and again, here's where you live. Replacing equipment, duct sealing is part of this package. Replacing hot water heating equipment with gas tankless heat pump water heaters, and something that we call fresh air systems. I'm a big believer that words make a compelling difference. Matter of fact, I have a hard stop at about 150 to move on to my next, 250 to move on to my next webinar, but which is all about selling it what you can see, energy efficiency. And one of the key things is using words that make a difference. Words are incredibly powerful. And I don't know any consumers that's looking for ventilation, but a lot of consumers in the market understands fresh air means something. So we have fresh air fact sheets about simple exhaust ventilation and spot ventilation, balanced ventilation, various kinds of solutions for fresh air. But that's where you live, that you're one of the fact sheets. And the access point for this is the Building America Solutions Center homepage. This is an amazing resource. I don't have enough time to really discuss everything that is embedded in this new best friend if you have anything to do with high performance homes. But the first thing I did when I got to DOE was I spent a month just studying all the assets we had. I was beyond impressed with how much amazing content we had. The only thing more impressive was how virtually impossible it would be for anyone to use it. So this was a solution to make all of our content accessible, actionable, easy to use, and home improvement rests right in there. That's what you would click to get to the home improvement program. And essentially what I want to do now is walk you through the basic construct of this whole program, which is the fact sheet checklist combination, how it's used, and how this can really support your businesses. And you're not intended to read any of the language here. I want to explain the overall concepts more importantly, and then dive into the duct sealing and insulation scope of work, so you understand how all duct sealing work will be held accountable to the kind of standards you're ideally suited to deliver. So this is the duct sealing and insulation content for the home improvement expert. And the way it works, first of all, is we have the branding. And without question, we don't have the billions and billions of dollars it takes to build a brand, but we do have incredible consumer recognition and respect for the US Department of Energy. So on the top and bottom of the page, that's our branding. We're the Department of Energy bringing you trusted guidance for you, the homeowner. And in this case, it's a home improvement expert fact sheet for duct sealing and insulation. So that's the first thing. Then you have in the bottom, the co-branding. This is brought to you, in this case, I put in the Aeroseal logo, but all the fact sheets are customizable so that you can partner with us, even as a contracting business, as a larger Aeroseal business, all those opportunities to be a partner and to co-brand the material that we have. So this is brought to you in this case by Aeroseal. Then we have on the fact sheet the content that is specific to this home improvement. And basically what we do is first explain the benefits, why it's compelling, just how often ducts are installed and they're very, very significantly leaky. Remember the research we discussed a few moments ago, and all the benefits for having more comfort, healthier air, just a better operating system. So explain the benefits, why you're here. And then the other thing we try to do in the improvement specific content is also explain what are related home improvement considerations that you need to be aware of that you may want to think about because of duct sealing. You may want to bring in some ventilation. You may want to also make sure that you insulate the ducts. Whatever it may be, there are related building science and energy efficient considerations. And we want people to understand both the benefits and other things they should be aware of when they engage in this measure. It could be for down the road or in the near term. So that's the specific content, and all the rest of the content is generic. So every fact sheet covers, first of all, why should you want to use the home improvement expert, and explains how it helps you get what you pay for, again, in simple language. If you're ready to do more, we explain other opportunities to do things that are really useful, like get a score for your house and understand more opportunities for improvement. It's a Home Energy Score, is a sister program at the Department of Energy. If you want to do a much more comprehensive upgrade for your house, there in some markets, a Home Performance with Energy Star program. And if you want to get a lot of information about this measure, a lot more detail, remember the Building America Solution Center we talked about is also the link to that. And then right over here, you have the tips for hiring a contractor, get multiple bids, and most importantly, use the home improvement checklist as your scope of work, along with the contractor scope of work, and more about that in a second. So that's how the fact sheet works. On the back side, it's a lot of just basic backup information. In this case, here's a full list of all the other checklists, including the duct sealing checklist. And on the right, we have basically an education piece that there's a sequence every homeowner should actually use to make home improvements. And often we kind of do it reversed, where the last step is insulation. Often that's the first step that most homeowners do. When really, if you insulate, you cover lots of areas you need to air seal and air barriers that you need to get to. Maybe you'll be in a situation where you make the house tighter and you need first to make sure you have fresh air ventilation. So all these steps are explained to the homeowner, how logically you would do the work so you have the least redo, in other words, waste of money, and the least risk of health issues, moisture issues, comfort issues. So explain to the homeowner the whole sequence concept of how you would do that. So that's just the fact sheet. So that's one piece. The most important piece, though, is a link to more resources as well. And we also vintage every home improvement expert content piece because we expect to, in real business time frame, keep upgrading them as we get really good feedback. But this is the key piece. This is the checklist. This is where we get the most value. This is the most used piece, we hope. So this is a separate piece. I've compressed 2 pages into one. Again, don't worry about reading this now. I want you to understand the construct, and then we'll go into some of the details about what we're looking for when we want a quality installation for duct sealing. So the way things set up is the very top, we have general conditions that make sure the work, make sure the checklist is identified as included in the scope of work. And in addition, that this work shall be compliant with all relevant codes, standards, and manufacturer instructions. We want the work accountable to all those elements as well, just like would be in any architectural contract. And as an architect, I've written hundreds of contracts. And lastly, the instruction to complete and sign the checklist. When you're done, complete and sign the checklist. So you check all the boxes and sign it. So that's the first thing at the top block. Then you move down and here's the scope of work. And it's presented in every home improvement checklist the same way. You start with what you do for preparation, what you do again for quality installation, and what you do for commissioning. So that's your basic scopes of work. Some are longer, some are shorter, but most are about this length or a little bit longer. And then you have the checkoff boxes, which are really important. You want them all checked before you then go and have the signature provided by the contractor in the bottom. The intention here is that every homeowner engaging a contractor would staple or attach this checklist to the contractor's scopes of work as an additional set of requirements, because they know that this is what the leading experts world-class experts at the Department of Energy would insist on any job they would do for themselves at their homes. And so this makes it, again, the accountability. It's a contractual obligation. And this is where it's signed off and they agreed that they did all the above items. Now, here again is the co-branding brought to you in this case by Aeroseal, but it could be individual contractors. And that's the basic checklist. Okay, so now let's look at the scopes of work, and I want you to understand the specifics as it relates to the duct sealing work that Aeroseal does. So the first thing I mentioned at the top are the general notes. I won't go through those again, but I want to talk about specifically what we're looking for when we attach this to a contract to seal our ducts and insulate the ducts. So the first thing is the entire length of the duct system, throughout the attic, basement, crawl space, whatever it may be, has to be inspected. Damaged ducts shall be repaired or replaced. Flexible ducts with excessive length shall be cut to proper length. Sharp bends shall be corrected so bends are greater than or equal to 1 duct diameter radius. So it's not a kink, it's actually a gradual bend. So that's the first block right over here. The second block right here is all unsupported horizontal duct runs shall be supported with hanger straps or saddle supports at least 1.5 inches wide and spaced no more than 4 feet apart. These are all basic best practices, right? And in accordance with ACA Manual D and manufacturer recommendations. Additional support shall be provided before and after bends, and the maximum permissible sag between support shall be a 1/2 inch per foot. So these are all basic requirements, but now every individual homeowner has access to this kind of accountability in the work being done. The next block, the next checkoff box is before sealing the ducts, leakage testing shall be performed in accordance with ResNet, Residential Energy Services Network, Standard Chapter 8 or ACA Standard 5, and based on this pretest, a targeted maximum level of duct leakage shall be determined and provided to the owner, preferably 10% or less of total airflow. This one is critical for several reasons. One is I'd like you all to make sure, for our purposes, that your pretest and post-test as well complies with this language. If you would feel that the language needs modification for Aeroseal because your test may be slightly different, we can easily add that and accommodate that test process that you use. But most importantly, what you're getting to see here is how many competitors to Aeroseal actually, for their homeowners, go in and pre and post test the duct system and hold the testing accountable to a reasonably tight duct metric, like in this case, 10% or less of airflow. So this is where it makes you more competitive. And you may even promise even less airflow if you want. But this is maybe one of the most critical clauses or scope of work statements that I want you to look at. Make sure you're good with this one. We will make changes in real time at the speed of business because we are committed to making sure that these work for our partners. The last bullet here is airflow shall be measured at each register with a powered flow hood as specified in the ResNet chapters, Standard Chapter 8, to help determine likely locations of leaks or damage. And again, let us know if there are any issues with this, but these are the 4 key preparation items for duct sealing and insulation. Okay, so now moving on, we'll complete the scope of work with installation and commissioning. Installation. All duct leaks, connections, and plenums shall be sealed with a UL approved mastic or UL 181 tape or equivalent, and in parentheses, you know, it specifically cite aerosol sealant, which is what would be obviously your method for Aeroseal. And it should be used in strict accordance with manufacturer instructions. We're repeating the manufacturer instructions because this one's really important. Next bullet down is the air filter is installed in a filter box attached to the air handler. The filter access panel should be fitted with an airtight gasket. So we don't want to have leakage where the filter is replaced. So we want to put some sort of gasketed piece right there. Next item, duct boots in unconditioned spaces so that'd be like the attic sealing interface, shall be sealed to finished surfaces with caulk, spray foam, or other approved sealants. So all the boots where the duct comes through the ceiling or through a floor, if it's an unconditioned space, crawl space below, for instance, you want to basically foam or caulk or seal the boot connection, which is something you don't get to with Aeroseal, which is something I assume you all do as standard practice. Next item, all accessible ducts in unconditioned attics, and that includes unconditioned areas such as attics, crawl spaces, unconditioned basements, and garages, shall be insulated to R8, greater than or equal to R8 for supply ducts, and greater or equal to R6 for return ducts. So if the ducts are in an unconditioned attic or crawl space, you want to wrap them with some insulation. And the next item, insulation moved during duct sealing shall be replenished to levels that meet or exceed the pre-retrofit levels. So if there already is insulation there, you just replenish it you repair and replenish to the existing level. And finally, a MERV 8 or greater filter shall be installed in the filter rack. That could be simply a matter of replacing a fiberglass filter with a pleated media filter that will probably be more likely or a MERV 11 or 12 or 13. Okay, so that's all there is to the installation. And finally, in commissioning, Now, the first bullet here is after ducts are sealed, air leakage shall be tested, again, for the same standard, Resident Standard Chapter 8 or ACA Standard 5. And again, let me know if we need to put something in for Aeroseal. And provided to homeowner, very importantly, to verify the duct leakage is less or equal to the target level. Again, preferably 10% or less of total airflow. The next commissioning item is airflow across the coil shall be tested following procedures approved by ANSI or ACA Standard 5, QI 2015 to verify it's within the CFM range specified by the equipment manufacturer. If it's not, adjustments shall be made by a qualified HVAC contractor. So, so basically citing that you want to make sure that the airflow across the coils is where it needs to be, and if not, bring in a contractor to ensure that can happen. And lastly, a pressure balance test shall be performed with bedroom doors closed where pressure differences are greater than equal to 5 pascals. Transfer grills and jump ducts shall be installed with openings equal to 1 inch per free opening per CFM of supply air to the bedroom. So basically, we're going to try to correct any pressure balance issues in homes, because transfer grills and jump ducts are easy to retrofit. And this is a time while the ducts are tight to make sure also the pressure balancing is correct in the house. Jump duct boots shall be sealed to the finished surfaces with, again, caulk, spray foam, or other proof sealants, just as you would with the duct boot for the supply and return ducts. That's the full scope of work. Before I go on to talk about how to work with this program, do we want to open it up for any questions on that scope of work for duct sealing and insulation? Bill, you're muted, so let me know.
Sorry,
Yeah,
can we get a...
that would be great.
Okay, great. So Tracy, I'll follow your lead if you're tracking them on chat or if they're coming in any other way, but why don't you feed me the questions if there are any?
I do have one that came in. Let me see here. It says, it seems like we are assuming that a lot of the duct systems are being installed correctly.
What systems?
The duct system itself.
No, just the opposite. We're assuming they're not.
Yeah.
So, as a matter of fact, we're assuming they're leaky because we have the research data that tells us that something like 90% of ducts leak excessively. And we know there are other issues, like 70 to 90% of systems have trouble with sagging ducts or kinks and bends. And so this is about really fixing the comfort system. Not only, the great thing is, all you did was Aeroseal a duct system that had really bad kinks or really oversized flex duct lengths or had really leaky boots. You might not have a satisfied customer. What's great about this is that you know your Aeroseal is going to do an amazing job increasing the efficiency of the duct system by reducing leakage. Now you just got to make sure that some other common defects are not usurping the good work that you did. They're not mitigating all the incredible benefits of duct sealing from Aeroseal. And so we're assuming the worst. We're coming in and we're going to get credit for this because this is what the leading experts would do in their own house. DOE says, you're not going to get what you pay for if you don't do a full quality installation. And by the way, we know that people care about this. The massive surge of interest in websites like Angie's List and Home Advisor are indicators that homeowners just don't have any confidence and trust in just reaching out to any contractor. So they'll reach out to any solution they can get to help point the way to some sort of assurance of some improvement in quality. And knowing all the rules and procedures of those websites, you have to figure out how much quality assurance you're getting. But this actionable tool holds the work accountable to the specific best practices by the best experts. So we feel this is an incredibly effective way to help homeowners and to help really quality conscious contractors like an Aeroseal contractor get the best outcome, but also have a mechanism to justify their cost structure, because in the case of most other competing duct sealing solutions, they won't deliver the same quality. And so now you're more competitive.
Very good. Sam, it looks like we have two more questions, and if it's okay, do you want me to ask them now or you want to wait?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, because this is, I don't want to get people to forget if they're anything about some of these requirements or what we just said before I talk about the logistics of working with the program.
Very good. Okay, so one question we have here is, what about the attic stairs located inside the occupied space?
That's a great question, and it's a pet peeve of mine. Attic stairs are a huge thermal bridge, thermal hole with surprisingly amount of impact on heat loss and heat gain in the winter and summer, respectively. And so, without question, it's a great measure for improving. It's not in this scope of work. This home improvement is about sealing and insulating the ducts. If you go to the attic air sealing and insulation checklist, then the drop down stair will be part of that scope of work and how to make sure it's improved. And there are several techniques for doing that, by the way. One is there are these insulated hoods that can go over the drop down stairs. There are drop down stairs that come built in with a rigid insulated sheathing, almost like a mini SIP construction. There are various things you can do, but that's the scope of work for the attic insulation and air sealing checklist, not for the duct sealing checklist, but a great question.
All right, very good. Next question could probably be answered by Jared Scott of the Aeroseal team. The question is, how long does this process, and I'm going to assume that what the person is asking is Aeroseal, how long does this process off gas?
Yeah, so first of all, we are going to be using ounces of sealant. It comes in a gallon jug, but what actually is remaining in the duct is going to depend on how much leakage and the size of the duct system. But it'll, because it's just going to accumulate in the leak points, it's not going to encapsulate the ducts. It's very little material. So off-gassing is going to be a matter of a few hours. It becomes fully cured in a matter of hours. The smell, just so we're getting into this a little bit, smells a little bit like Elmer's glue. Very familiar smell, but the material itself is very, very safe. It's a very similar makeup to some water-based paints, hairsprays, chewing gums, very common materials. And we've got, safety data sheet for anybody that would be interested in really kind of getting a feel for more on that level, what it entails. But it's not going to be very noticeable. We did a home in Cincinnati a year or so ago. It's a new home. The homeowner was there meeting with a landscaper. We had one of our dealers doing the work. She never noticed or never knew anything was even going on. She wasn't aware that we were actually putting sealant into there. In the basement, it was more evident, but on the main level, it wasn't. So again, very safe, fairly minimal. In an unfinished basement, it's going to definitely be more prevalent, where the duct work is going to be more where you can see it, where it's going to escape into the room a little bit there. So hopefully that answers that.
Yep, thank you, Jared. And I think we usually also refer to the sealant as being, non-toxic, water soluble. It's an organic compound. I mean, I think all that just kind of adds to what you're saying, correct?
Mm-hmm. Sure does, yes.
Yeah. Okay, Sam, I think this one comes back to you. So looks like we have three more that just came in. Now the wheels are turning. So the next question here is, can a pressure pan survey substitute for a full-blown duct leakage test?
That we would have to take on a request for accommodation. So I don't know yet. It's a good question. I think we deferred to the most common testing, the flow hood, but I think if there's a request and we can, there's any scientific and database reasons that would justify that other option, we would approve it. So if there's good data that shows it's equivalent, we try to accommodate as much as possible.
Okay. Next question we have here. In Dallas, most of the systems are gas furnaces with evaporators directly attached, then a 3-foot supply plenum. How do you recommend measuring airflow correctly to evaluate leakage? Then they say you would have to measure at furnace, then at grills. Total and difference is the amount of leakage.
So I'd have to recommend that question be sent in to me. I'll have my contact information at the end, and I'll have some of my technical experts make a recommendation. But you're into an area which I don't dig that deep into, but it's a really important question. So please send it to me and we'll get an answer. Unless, Jared, you may have something to say about that one.
Yeah, I don't actually. I'm very interested in the answer though.
Yeah, we'll definitely get you an answer. That's a great question. So please do send it to me. Like I said, I'll have all my contact information at the end.
Okay, and we have one more, Sam. This question is 1-inch thick filters with a MERV rating of 8 or higher typically have a static pressure drop of over 0.2 inches, which in turn will probably decrease the CFM of the said system. So I don't know if that's a question or a...
No, I know the question is you don't want to do harm while you're trying to do good. And so most filters are rated for airflow. You have to find one that matches the needs in your system. I know that I've run into personal issues replacing filters and having to get a higher quality filter that has more airflow, and I also have to replace filters at 2 months versus 3 months after experimenting, because I'm just basically changing out a fiberglass filter for a media filter. And so I think that is such a great question, because I think it's a point where you have to kind of really be careful and make sure you know the flow rating for that particular filter. And different filters will have different flow ratings. I know in California, I think it's required that all the filters, I think, have a flow rating, but it's just something you have to do. And I also would diligently ask the homeowners to watch their filter performance, check it to see, because a lot of the pleated filters are rated for 90 days, but you do want to make sure that you're, you don't want to freeze the coil and get into some really significant repairs. So you're stuck with the opening you have. The ideal thing you want to do, and there's an upserve opportunity here, to put in a 2 or 4 inch rack instead of a 1 inch rack. And if you look at the amount of filter you get with a 4 inch versus a 1 inch, it's something like 30 times more surface area. It's an amazing amount of increase. So, so great question. I think you just need a little bit of diligence. You do have to check the airflow rating on the filters and know the airflow rating that you kind of need. So all that should be in the boilerplate, but of the equipment, but do be careful. That is an important area you don't want to mess up.
All right, and those are all the questions that we have currently. So you can jump right back in.
Okay, great. So I only have about 3 or 4 or 5 more slides to really talk about if this makes sense, what do you do? And first of all, I want to explain the website resources. If you go to that home improvement checklist website that I showed you earlier, that's accessible from the Building America Solution Center, you have 3 options when you get there. One is to view and download all the checklists online. One is to become a partner, and anyone can become a partner, a contractor, a manufacturer, a utility, a local government, anyone that would be positioned to promote or use the checklist can be a partner. And then there's a map to view where all the partners are and see where they are across the country. The commitments we ask partners to make are to provide the DOE branded content to consumers. This is our commitments. We provide the DOE branded content for consumers. We allow co-branding with partners. We recognize our partners, and again, that's through first the locator tool I just showed you, and then there's a number of other recognition activities that we'll undertake to promote all the partners working in the program. We also are committed to increasing awareness of the program, to providing timely updates, and to respond to requests, just as we are discussing today, where I'm saying, if you need information, we'll get back to you right away. If any of the tests or recommendations need to be expanded, give us the basis for another test, and we will work at the speed of business. We really want to get these right. The reason we're vintaging all the content is we expect through this kind of relationship with partners to just be continuously improving the checklist, adding where we're missing, deleting where we're excessive, editing where we can make it better. We just want these tools to get better and better and better. So we will respond to requests at the speed of business. In terms of why become a partner, one is it's a really simple way to improve your quality assurance. If you have crews that are working for you, you have very clear expectations. And again, checklists are very useful quality assurance technique, helpful for onboarding by giving each new crew member really clear guidance what they need to do. It's really simple, easy quality assurance. Second, you enhance your brand immediately by being associated with the best of the best quality assurance contractors that can comply with the best experts at the U.S. Department of Energy. Third, you're going to optimize your customer experience because you'll be delivering best practices. You'll justify a price structure that is inclusive of quality installation requirements. And lastly, you'll earn trust because you'll be associated with Department of Energy endorsed quality that should be done in every single job. So that's why you should become a partner. And the way you become a partner is you go to this website that we mentioned. If I go back a couple of slides, you click on become a home improvement partner here, and you'll immediately get to all the information you need. So let me go back. Good. And your requirements once you're a partner are just get back to us on an annual basis with some basic information, approximately how many jobs you've completed using the checklist, how many jobs you completed, what % of those use the checklist, what's useful and what can be improved about the checklist. That's all we want to know each year. We want to keep getting better. And do provide feedback on changes needed, on updates needed, and additions needed. If there are other checklists that would be helpful for homeowners. Again, so you visit the website to become a partner, you complete the registration form, which only takes a minute or two. You read the agreement, it's provided electronically, and you then look for a confirmation email from us once you submit it. Again, within minutes, you'll be getting confirmation. And so once you are a partner, there are 4 easy steps and you're on your way. Customize content, co-brand it with your company, integrate it in your communication on your website, social media, whatever you may do. Train your staff so they know how to use these checklists and then implement the checklist with your customers. So 4 easy steps. And I promised you that I would give you my contact information, and here's Bill's as well. And I'll take any further questions.
Looks like we don't have any questions yet. So while we're waiting, in case anybody wants to send any in, I will remind everybody who's listening, there is a handout in the menu of a copy of the checklist and all the information that Sam reviewed. And at the end of today's webinar, there will be a recording sent out to anyone and everyone who registered for today's webinar. Sam, do we have your permission to share a PDF copy of the slide content?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good.
Sam, can you speak to the enrollment of contractors into the program? What are you seeing in terms of the contractors who are filling out the application and getting involved? Are you seeing a swell of contractors?
Well, actually, we have about 70 different partners, including contractors, currently in the program. So we're just launching and just underway. I won't have any data, Bill, on actual experience and how these play out until some of the first annual reports start coming in. And we start also having time to engage and speak to them individually.
Okay, and the reason I asked the question is that I went through the partner list and clicked on almost all of the states to see who was in there. It really seems like it's an underutilized resource at this point. And when I look at the dealers of ours that are on this webinar today, dealers that are really out there doing it right, it just seems like a really extraordinary opportunity to differentiate yourself from the pack and create a conversation about something other than price. You know, we're always looking at salespeople and solution providers to be able to talk about value add. And I just think that there's really an opportunity for people in this audience to benefit from it because it's a pretty exclusive, pretty small group of partners that are in there so far.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bill. That's a great point. We've really been consumed with getting the content and the logistics of the program ready to go. So over the next year, we'll get some really good experience with the contractors in the field. So we're very early in the game. But to your point, if you have any business model based around delivering quality services, a program like this is so helpful. If nothing else, when you get a copy of the PDF, just the research data from the Department of Energy of how many substandard quality issues are part and parcel of every HVAC installation should be a basis for the good work you do. And just being able to showcase those actual measured performance defects in HVAC systems that are being found routinely, and to say that you're applying the best practices that will counteract that common challenge for homeowners across the country. So, and putting you in a special group that are able to deliver this quality, I think is uniquely comforting to homeowners. So yeah, thank you, Bill. I can't say enough about how excited we are to get the first contractors working with the program and learning how to leverage it for what it's really worth. And we will want to help you in every way possible. Today, we talked mostly about Aeroseal and duct sealing, but if you're an HVAC contractor, you have a whole array of other applications for replacing equipment, and if you do water heaters and so forth. So yeah, this is hopefully a great connection for most of the contractors listening to this today.
Sam, I know you have to jump off here in a second, so there's one more question that came in. Are there any federal rebates besides local rebates? Wait a minute, hold on. Are there I'm just going to read it the way it's phrased. Are there federal rebates besides local rebates for heating and cooling equipment replacements?
None that I know of. I think there used to be a tax rebate for energy efficient HVAC equipment replacement, but so do check. But my knowledge is there isn't. So mostly your opportunities, if you're looking for rebates and incentives, to look for utility programs in your market. There was a website that used to list all the utility programs. I'm not sure if it's still active. I can't remember the name of it. I know if Jared or Bill, you do E-Rise or something like that.
Desire?
Desire, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if Desire is still kept up to date, but that is a good master list of incentives. But you can check locally to see if there are any available.
So, and folks, that's DSIREUSA.org. So there's no E when you spell desire, DSIREUSA.org. I also see that we have an attendee, Tom Gabrielson, has his hand up, but I'm not sure what your question is, Tom. If you'd like to send it through the question box, I'd be happy to ask it on your behalf. Otherwise, Sam, I want to be respectful of your time. Anybody with any last minute questions before Sam jumps to his next webinar?
And if not, you got this email address right here below. Please do feel free to send me any questions directly.
Sam, thank you so much for being with us today and for authoring this program. It's a great way for people who are out there in the marketplace doing the work right and being accountable to the consumer. And we appreciate what you're doing.
Hey, thank you so much, Bill. And thank you, Tracy and Jared. Great joining you all today.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, take care, Sam. And Tracy, we can pause, and if anyone else has a question that they're squeaking in under the bar, we'd love to stick around and answer it.
Absolutely.
Really want to encourage the dealers who are on here to really look specifically at the checklist as it's authored now. Any feedback that you can give us, we want to make sure that we're getting it right in terms of it correctly identifying the right way to do the work without being too rigid and discounting proper ways to do the work. And it is out there already in production, and so it's available. But as Sam said, he would expect to continue to edit this and improve this over the coming years. So any feedback that you can give us that would cause you to be more likely to use it and benefit from it, we'd love to get that input from you.
So Bill, we have someone asking if you could restate the name of the program one more time.
It's the Home Improvement Expert Program. And our particular one that's most interesting to us falls under heating and cooling, and it's duct sealing and insulation. There's actually 21 separate areas of home improvement that are covered by the program, and they're organized into enclosure upgrades, heating and cooling, hot water heating, and fresh air systems.
Very good. So it looks like the questions are slowing down. We don't seem to have any questions coming in here. So I guess I'll open it up to both you, Bill and Jared, for any closing remarks.
Yes, I would like to just encourage anyone who's interested in doing a co-branded piece, specifically on the duct sealing and insulation checklist. We are poised to produce those co-branded pieces for you, a digital version of it. And if you utilize my email address on this last slide and let us know that you're interested. We'll get that piece put together. You'll have to submit a logo to me, and we'll get that produced and turned back to you to help us co-market the Aeroseal approach to duct sealing.
I'd like to thank everybody for attending. If there are any other questions, certainly you can reach out to Bill's information is there collectively or independently. We'll get you the answer as it relates to Aeroseal. But I think it's a great program. You know, when you're looking for a competitive opportunity or advantage rather, to be able to position your company better and tie to a well-respected organization with the Department of Energy, and something that's got tools and resources to help. This sounds like a great opportunity.
Yes, and Jared, it just so happened that yesterday I was out in the field with one of our dealers here in Central Ohio, and I did a ride along with them in a duct seal that we did for a homeowner up in the Columbus market. This particular homeowner was very sensitive because the homeowner has a breathing illness, and maybe equally important, the homeowner's spouse had a concern about the sound of us spraying sealant through their duct system. And so they were really hung up and weren't sure whether to go or not, whether they wanted the Aeroseal process. And so I got on the phone with them a couple days ago and spoke with them. And yesterday I actually went up and did the ride along with the event. And I pulled out the DOE checklist and talked to the homeowner about it, who stood at our hip and watched everything that we did throughout the day. We fixed a return system that featured 1,200 CFMs of leakage on a 4-ton system in a 3,800 square foot home. They had holes in their duct system that I could stick my hand in. And it took us about 75 minutes of manual work to tape and mastic that system to get the leakage down to about 800 CFMs. And then we put Aeroseal to work on that return array. And we took 244 square inches of leakage down to just 5. So it was a 98% reduction. And I think that is the kind of performance that's available through Aeroseal, and it's nice to have the endorsement of the idea, the technology by DOE. So we're very excited that Sam and his folks have put this program together. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance today. We appreciate it. Let us know if you have interest to learn more about Aeroseal, and please don't hesitate to use our email address to get a hold of any of the documents that we've referred to, or to help you in any way get connected to the Home Improvement Expert Program.
Very
Have a
good.
great Thursday, everybody.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jared.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.